All right, let's get into it. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of Silicon Valley's most mysterious and powerful figures, Peter Thiel. We're going to try and understand his grand design for the future, and it's a design that's built on stagnation, disruption, and a level of control that, frankly, might shock you.
So, we're diving into the worldview of Peter Thiel and the company he co-founded, Palantir. And that quote you just saw from his partner Alex Karp, that is not just some dramatic throwaway line. It gets right to the heart of their mission. They genuinely see themselves as revolutionaries, pushing a world-altering change where the stakes are, quite literally, life and death.
To really get what makes Thiel tick, from his wild political bets to his business strategies, you have to start with his core diagnosis of the modern world. He believes fundamentally that we are living in an age of, well, stagnation.
Here's his argument in a nutshell. For all our incredible digital progress, the internet, AI, everything on our phones, our physical lives, the world of atoms, have barely changed in 50 years. He thinks all the progress in the world of bits is just masking a really dangerous lack of progress in the real world, and it's leaving us in this state of comfortable decline.
And this is such a great way to think about it, using the movie Back to the Future, something Thiel himself has talked about. The leap from 1955 to 1985 felt gigantic, right? A totally different world. But from 85 to today, the cars are a little sleeker and we have smartphones, but the world looks pretty much the same. The flying cars we were all promised, they never showed up.
And for Thiel, this isn't an economic problem. No, this is a cultural one. He believes that wealthy societies basically become victims of their own success. We've just gotten too comfortable, too afraid to take big risks. We've stopped shooting for the moon, and instead, we're just optimizing what we already have. And to him, that is a recipe for a slow, quiet decay.
Okay, so if the diagnosis is that we're stagnating because we're too afraid of risk, what's Thiel's prescription for a cure? Well, let me tell you, it is not a gentle one. It is all about forcing a change. His whole thing is that you cannot have real progress without embracing crisis. To jolt us out of this comfortable slide, he thinks society needs a massive shock to the system. He'll point to things like Alzheimer's research, and he'll claim that decades have been totally wasted because the establishment is just too scared to admit their ideas have failed and try something truly radical.
This quote right here, it explains everything. For Thiel, backing a disruptive political figure wasn't really about agreeing with all the policies. It was about using that figure as a tool, as an iceberg, basically, to smash into the complacent status quo and force the entire ship of state onto a new, unknown course.
So you see, that's the key takeaway here. For Thiel, the disruption itself was the goal. He felt the whole political conversation had become stale, dishonest. The hope was that by just breaking the old way of doing things, you'd create an opening for something new to emerge, even if you weren't exactly sure what that new thing would be.
So how does all this abstract philosophy actually show up in the real world? Well, it shows up in his most powerful and, let's be honest, most controversial creation, Palantir. This is where the idea of disruption becomes a concrete, world-shaping tool.
You have to remember the world Palantir was born into. It wasn't created in a vacuum. It was designed for a post-9/11 world, a world defined by fear, where the government was absolutely desperate for some way to connect all the millions of dots it was collecting.
And let's be crystal clear about their ambition, because they are not shy about it. They don't just want to sell some software to the government. They want to become its central nervous system, the fundamental operating system for all of its data.
And his reach is just staggering. We're talking about everything from military intelligence on foreign battlefields to the health records of millions and millions of ordinary Americans. All of that incredibly sensitive data is being sifted through by this one single private company. The level of power and insight that gives them is unprecedented.
And this, right here, is the key to the whole thing. This unique share structure is basically a fortress. It's designed to ensure that Thiel and the other founders can execute their long-term vision without anyone interfering. It guarantees that they, and only they, remain in control of this incredibly powerful tool, no matter what outside investors might think.
Okay, so this brings us to the end game, the ultimate stakes of Thiel's entire project. And he frames it in these huge, almost apocalyptic terms. For him, this isn't just about business or politics, it's about the entire future of the human race.
You know, Thiel's thinking is part of a very old debate, one that figures like Milton Friedman wrestled with, that fundamental tension between individual freedom and centralized control. But Thiel pushes this debate to its absolute extreme. He frames our future as a stark choice between two existential nightmares.
So on one side, you have what he calls Armageddon. This is the classic sci-fi dystopia we all know, right? Uncontrolled technology, rogue AI, bioweapons, nuclear war, total chaos that could just wipe us all out.
But, and this is so crucial to his thinking, Thiel argues the greater, more insidious danger is what he, in his own provocative way, calls the Antichrist. Now, he's not talking about a religious figure. He's talking about a global totalitarian state, one that rises to power by promising to save us from all that chaos. It offers us peace and safety, but at the ultimate cost, our freedom, our dynamism, and what he would call the very essence of humanity.
So this leaves us with the critical question of our time. As technology like AI becomes unimaginably powerful, who do we trust? Do we bet on the disruptors like Thiel to force us into a new future, even if it means chaos along the way? Or do we rely on our institutions to keep us safe, even if it means we stagnate? Thiel has placed his bet. The rest of us now have to place ours.